Hello, and welcome back to the Bazaar Bulletin. I'm your host, Ben. This week, we're going to jump straight to Dillon with an interview, who sat down with this week's guests in the lead up to Pro Tour Final Fantasy. Take us away, Dillon.
Thanks for that, Ben. I'm here with our next guest, Colin. Colin, would you like to introduce yourself a bit, please?
Hi everyone, hi Dillon. My name's Colin Harris. I'm a 25-year veteran Magic player based in Wollongong, New South Wales.
Alright, Colin. I want you to tell me about the first time you ever touched a Magic card and what was that like?
Oh gosh, that was a ride. 1999, just after Mercadian Masks came out. I'd already been playing Pokemon for a few years, so I was used to TCGs. And my older brother, who some people may know, the big hairy one, came home from high school with some Magic cards from a friend and sat down and we had a look, and this stuff was all over the place. Beasts of Garden from Chronicles, Ebon Strongholds, Fallen Empires, just a mess of stuff. I had no idea, but the artwork just absolutely caught me. And I knew from then, I'm like, this is great. I mean, didn't even need to learn how to play, but I was in.
So that artwork stuck with you to this day then, huh?
Yeah. I've tried to get the original, but obviously that's like a bit off limits to some people. But even just a print of it to put on the wall, knowing that was the first time I touched Magic, it's definitely on the bucket list.
So, Colin, you said you've been playing Magic for 25 or so years. Is that true?
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I learned to play at the end of '99, but it sort of cooled off for a bit. My first booster pack was Nemesis in 2000. My first event was not long after, just a casual event, local FNM. We didn't really have many in Wollongong at the time. But my first competitive event actually wasn't until probably 2001 when Invasion came out. We had a PTQ for Extended, and it's really interesting taking a standard deck in a field full of Force of Wills. So, bit of a bad experience, but even then, just the drive, like the something matters every time I play a card. The bug bit.
And that bug just kind of never goes away, does it? Some people get it really bad, I found.
Oh yeah, look, even when you step back a bit, or even when you just want to have a break, there's always that urge to just like look at another deck, change a card, see what's on the internet. It's crazy.
So what's the next big tournament that you're preparing for?
So obviously, we have the Pro Tour coming up for Final Fantasy. Testing's been pretty good with the guys. We're in a team with some Europeans, some of the other RC top eighters or top teners, a few bus stop members as well. Matthew Judas among them. But it's not just the Pro Tour. There are some more events coming up later this year. Obviously, our friend Patrick Hawkins with his events at End All Events. The $50 Black Lotus event is definitely something that everyone's got their eye on, myself included, not just for a $50 Lotus, but just to see another large, big event or convention style setup in Australia. Since we lost Grand Prix and Magic Fest is always great.
So with Pat's big Black Lotus event coming up, in your 25 years of playing competitive Magic, have you ever played a tournament where a Black Lotus was on the line?
No, this is the first. I think the highest prize support outside of like a Pro Tour was $50,000. There's been winner moxes back in the day for 7 Point. And even then, those moxes were somewhere between 500 and 1,000. So this is by far and away probably the biggest non-cash event I've played in a quarter of a century. So it is significant, and I fully encourage everyone to get on board.
So Colin, in your own words, what does your competitive Magic resume look like?
My resume is pretty extensive, especially for someone who's Australian based. Obviously, there's not a lot of opportunities for us to play major events out here. But playing for so long, obviously it does gradually rack up. I did go back through a bit of my history. I managed to save a lot of the data before the Great Wizards Purge when Planeswalker points went down. So off the top of my head, I'm a one-time PT player so far with a day two. I've played upwards of 19 GPs over my career. I think it's about 10 day twos, and 7 of those were cash finishes. My highest finish was a 22nd in GP Auckland 2012. That was playing like 4-color, Soren, Olivia, Thragtusk, random stuff.
So, what's the difference in the ANZ competitive scene between what it's like now and what it was like at your first Pro Tour?
Well, definitely the floor for skill across the board is massively higher than what it used to be. Especially now that most of our large scale events that we use to qualify for the Pro Tour are invite only. Like you will generally see a much more skillful, regular average player. Like I consider myself always one of those mid tier grinder qualifier guys. Um, you know, of all the people I've known and been around for all my time, you can go, well, that person's a Grand Prix top eight, or that person's a 6-time Pro Tour player. I'm like, I've barely done that much compared to so many people in and around this community. But the average guy that should be like in the tier that I believe is just under myself, they are so much better than what we would consider those players 10 years ago, 5 years ago, like even then. So um, if we were to get large open invites like Grand Prix or Magic Fest again, instead of Super Series, it would be crazy to see the amount of talent on display. So, if anything, I believe it is somewhat easier to qualify for the Pro Tour now than what it would normally have been under the old system. Because, by isolating so many people out of the pool of qualified players, not to say it's an easy thing, it's definitely not. Like, you're still going to win that many rounds on that given day. But, the floor is a lot higher. So, you have got harder opponents, just I don't think not as many.
So, what are some of your goals and ambitions around competitive Magic currently?
And this time, obviously, being competitive, you want to have something relevant to look forward to. For me, at the moment, the absolute minimum benchmark is day two. If I can walk away and say, look, I've still got a 100% record on making day twos, that's a start. Obviously, the difference between that and requalifying is about 4 or 5 wins. So if I can walk away with a positive record, like I finished Dragon's Maze at, I believe it was 7-9. So if I can rectify that and have a winning record overall, great. If I get to that 10 wins and requalify, it's not 100% my goal. But, once I get to that position that I've made day two and I'm like, okay, job done, I'll go game for game, round for round, and we'll try to get to that. If that happens, well, I'd be ecstatic because, that's obviously getting to a third PT after, waiting 12 years to get to the first one, 12 years to get to the second one. That would absolutely blow my mind if that happened. But yeah, just day two at this time.
Colin, when you're preparing for a Magic tournament, who do you normally work with?
So we have a group of local players. Most of them have played on the PT probably once themselves or have some other notable local results. They're the go-to, standard Pioneer Modern grinders. They're still active in the game on a weekly basis. So to have a group to draw upon there, when I don't have to really, be hands-on is always great. But they're fantastic to work with. They're really hardworking. They'll happily tell me when I'm wrong, and that's fantastic. When it gets a bit bigger, obviously, we have those group chats where we have, dedicated archetype specialists. We have our shops chat with, Graham King, Thomas, Trent, Jake Sims, Tubman himself. All those guys will sit in there and we'll have a chat about, what's the latest, artifact or colorless tech. And then we have, sometimes we have a small chat with a few people. It's all aggro stuff. I find myself to be an aggro player for the most part. So, what's the latest thing? Obviously, everyone's talking mono red for standard, but when it comes to playing 7-point Highlander, it's like, what's the latest aggro stuff? Or even if it comes to someone's randomly running a legacy event, it's like, what does aggro look like in that? So, but yeah, it's mainly just the local guys, but being around as long as I have, I do have connections here, there, and everywhere that I can draw upon if I need to.
So, thank you so much for your time today, Colin. Where can our viewers find and follow your Magic progress?
Okay, so I have 2 dead social media accounts that I'm going to be reviving for the Pro Tour and going forward. On Twitter/X, you can find me at Karn Silver Golem. There's no E in the silver, so KarnSilverGolem. And on Facebook, there'll be facebook.com/Big Red Dragon Gaming.
Alrighty then. This was Colin. I'm Dillon. Back to you, Ben.
Unfortunately, Colin didn't have the best of weekends. Turns out it was a weekend really to focus in on the red aggressive decks. Someone who knows quite a bit about red aggro, one of Australia's most established Pro Tour competitors from the last 15 years, I'm joined today by my friend and teammate, Matthew Anderson. Hey Matt, tell us a little bit about your experiences with mono red aggro.
Oh, well, thanks, Ben. I have a lot of experience being beaten by mono red aggro repeatedly at all levels of Magic, and this weekend would be no exception. This was a fantastic weekend to be that mono red player. I mean, just look at our top 8. 4 mono red aggro decks, 4 Is It Prowess decks. What a weekend to be that red aggro player.
There was a rival deck that did well but didn't quite make the top 8. Azorius Omniscience. Matt, you want to tell us a little bit about the highest placed Omniscience player?
Oh, of course. This player has been one of the rising up-and-coming stars from the ANZ region, having phenomenal results both at Pro Tour 8th Drift and now at Pro Tour Final Fantasy, finishing with 12-4 at this Pro Tour. Usually enough to make the top 8, unfortunately just missing on tiebreakers this time around. But Sean Henry, what a result. That also gives him enough AMPs to qualify him for not only the next Pro Tour, but the next 2. And based on his record of 12-4, still gets that coveted Worlds invite. What a performance.
Absolutely massive. Well done, Sean. Congratulations from all of us. There were a few other really good finishes at Pro Tour Final Fantasy. Zen Miyagi Thorn, Nathan Basser, and Jose Gabriel Hilario. Matt, how did these 3 do?
Oh, well, Zen and Nathan both had an amazing 10-6 finish, giving them both a requalification for the next Pro Tour, and Jose finishing with a 9-7 record. I believe also qualifying him for the next Pro Tour on adjusted match points.
Yeah, so looking ahead for those 3, Jose and Zen now only need to make day 2 at Pro Tour Edge of Eternities to qualify for Pro Tour Lorwyn Eclipsed, the one after. And Nathan Basser would need a result of 9-7 at Edge of Eternities to do the same.
Look, both Zen and Jose only need to make day 2. It's going to be a stellar performance from both of them. Looking forward to seeing them in the next Pro Tour. And Nathan Basser has proven himself more than capable of achieving such a great result.
Unfortunately, there were a couple of near misses for requalification from the ANZ player representatives. Henry Sams and Christopher Tong sadly went into round 16 with the 9 match wins but could not cross the line to number 10. Still a phenomenal result.
Look, anytime you're at the Pro Tour, you're coming into that last round with 9 wins. Look, one good top deck, one bad top deck can make or break your entire tournament for that requalification. Still, getting to the point where that is what it's coming down to. Fantastic effort put in by both of those players.
And it's worth remembering that only 2 years ago, 9 wins was enough to requalify you. So these 2 players certainly on the bad side of variance here. I'm sure they'll be back at this stage. On a broader ANZ perspective, there were 11 of the 13 starters who managed to make day 2, which is always a phenomenal result. These are the best players in the world. So a huge shout out as well to James Arthur, Matthew Judas, Thomas Bott, Nicholas Talbot, and Sebastian Verncombe, who did manage to get to that day 2, which is, what you want to do, right?
Look, your first goal at every Pro Tour, make it to day 2, we'll go from there.
Before we get too much further, there is clearly a bit of an elephant in the room, and on June 30, there is a ban window that will affect all formats, but clearly focused a little on standard right this moment. Matt, you got any tips for the ban window?
Well, I mean, there is one card in particular that's putting forth a really strong case for itself right now to see that early departure. I mean, Corey Silco's performance and play rate at this Pro Tour are just off the charts. It is a card that I do not expect to be playing against for too much longer in Standard.
The other thing affecting Standard in the near future as well is with the upcoming release of Edge of Eternities on August 1, there is a rotation. And so there's some natural attrition in the format as well. We'll see how that plays out. With the impending release of Edge of Eternities, Matt, where are you going to get your singles?
I mean, the same place I got my singles for Final Fantasy. Pat's MTG Bazaar. Like, they've got wonderful Facebook auction houses, links below. There is a website up and coming that will also be below. Best place in the ANZ region to get your singles. Really quick, great prices, always going to support them.
And with that, that's all we've got for today. From all of us at the Bazaar Bulletin, see you next time.